What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another GGF video. Now, you may notice the channel has been a little bit quiet as of recent. That's because my family and I have just relocated to Colorado Springs. So we left California, we've moved to Colorado, we built a house from the ground up, and I'm doing a bit of a, not really a full basement tour, but I want to talk about the acoustic wood panels that I've used in some of the area on this basement. Now, Aku Woodpanel did sponsor these. I got a pretty good discount, so I thought I'll do a video just to give them a bit of a shout out, how I set them up, how I installed them. So pretty much built a brand new house. It's just been done about a month and a half, 2 months ago. We went with the full unfinished basement option. With that, we saved about 50K. So we got a nice kitchen, really large living area, and we have a large loft upstairs. So basically the house is, or for the non-Americans out there, the house is 3 levels. So we start off with a basement. Basement is fully underground. If I switch this camera around, because I am from Australia, we don't really have anything like this. So that is the basement. Up there is pretty much ground level. So we are underground here, which is pretty cool. I think for a basement, especially for what I do, doing the filming, it does make a pretty good studio. It's very quiet. Sound dampening is pretty good. It's not like you're working out of a garage, you're not working out of a shed, anything like that. Then we have the next level. That's the main kitchen, living room, a few bedrooms. And then we have the very upper level, which has the loft, and then your main bedrooms, the master bedroom, and so on. Now, spent about 2 months getting this basement done. I got a contractor in because when this house was done, this basement was completely bare. There was just concrete walls all the way around. Obviously, being underground, it was just concrete walls, concrete floor, a little bit of framing in some areas, but not much. And then it had the insulation around the side. So I got a contractor to come in to do all the framing. That was a little bit beyond my skill level. I've never done it before. I wanted to get that done right. And then I also got the contractor to do the drywall as well. So as you can see, all this area around here has been drywalled, where my computers are, and then I got my storeroom back further. But then over here, which is my main filming studio, this part here, this basement is about 1,600 square feet. So the whole house is a bit under 5,000. Each level is about 1,600, and that gives you roughly about 4,800 for the whole house. Now, 1,600 down here for the basement, I think is pretty large. This filming area here, this wall over here is about 30 feet long. This very back wall here is about 17. So I left this area completely just framed, not drywalled, because I always had the plan to completely cover all of the walls up with either acoustic wood panels or the black fabric, which I've done. I think I've done it in most of the places I lived in back in Australia, and then also where I was in California. I was working out of a 2-car garage there. I basically make up a timber frame of like 2x2, stretch some fabric over it. I do that on the ground, and then I just rock it up and just put it up against the wall and just normally tack it in at the top and the bottom in the corners. And that makes a really nice, just a subtle background for things like my cinematic shots and my photos, especially this large one over here being 17 feet long. Did the same thing. That's on a timber frame, made it on the ground and just rocked it up. And then you see when I do my photos and my cinematic, that's basically my desk just sits in front there, and then I can film straight along there. So going back onto these acoustic wood panels, if you want me to do a full basement tour, let me know. There's quite a lot going on here. I did a lot of research on everything. Like I did the flooring myself. I did get the roof painted black. That was done at the very, very start. I didn't really have anything to do that. I would have had to purchase all the materials for that. But I think having the ceiling, just this raw timber, like the floor joists, all of the piping done completely black, looks absolutely insane. It probably doesn't look as good on camera. These lights kind of overexpose it, but once you're down here in person, the roof just kind of disappears and it looks like night once you have these lights on, and it looks really cool. I really can't wait to start actually filming some builds, getting some cinematic shots to see how it all looks. Anyway, enough about the basement. Let me know if you want a video. I've got smart lighting. All of this lighting is smart controlled. I've got a tablet over here that controls all of the lighting. Over here, there's it may look a little bit weird with the lighting setup. It's all mixed up, but I've got 3 dedicated areas of lighting. This shot over here, then I've got this side over here, and then I've got the very back or the very end over there, and all of these lights will correspond to the different setups. Okay, now back to these wood panels. Aku Woodpanel did sponsor these. I got a good discount on them. So I want to do a video for you guys. They've also got a coupon code if you guys are interested in these. I'll put it in the description. Mainly for my followers and my fans, they're giving 25% off on these because these are quite expensive. It's not just this brand, this manufacturer. Across the board, they are very expensive. I just think it's like the materials it takes, the time it takes, and so on to get these done. Because if I get close up on these are actually still a wood grain that are sort of staying black. There is a felt behind it, and they do have some pretty good acoustic properties as well. So I went with the bit over 9 foot option for these panels. They do a larger and a shorter one. They do like a 7 foot and a bit over 9 foot. Obviously, these ceilings down here are 9 feet. So I went with the slightly larger one so I could trim them down. Because if I went with the 7 feet, I would have had like either a gap at the bottom or a gap at the top, and I would have had to join them. So I went with the larger ones. I trimmed them down to about 11 inches off the top. I decided to put my cut at the very top so you wouldn't see it as much as if it was down the bottom. So I cut 11 inches off. I actually made a jig to do these because I had over 30 panels to cut. Now, obviously, if you have a small room, say it's 8 feet width for the wall you want to do, each panel comes in just under 2 feet. So you'd only need about 4 and a bit feet to do, or 4 or so panels to do that room. So you can just cut it with a handsaw. I've seen people use a jigsaw, but I used a jig I made up so I could slide the panels in. Then they hit a stop, which was at the right amount I needed to cut off. Then I just went with a circular saw, ran it along the edge and just cut that off, slid the next one in, cut it off, and so on. I did have a friend helping me, which worked out well. Now, the cut was a little bit rough at the end. I tried a few different blades on my circular saw, and I found like a medium tooth one worked well. I tried a really fine tooth one, which I used to cut metals like aluminum, but that was just getting stuck and it was starting to burn a little bit. So the fine teeth blades I thought might have worked because that does work on some timbers, but this one might be just a little bit too hard to cut with the fine blades. But anyway, the normal circular saw blade I had worked well. Was a little bit frayed at the end, probably just because these are oak, and that's just the way it does that. But once I just got my sort of hand and just rubbed it around all the frame bits, it actually turned out pretty good. And then I just made sure my cut end was at the top. Now, when I cut the height, I did measure my ceiling just to make sure all the spots were right. In a new house, it should be pretty good. If you do have different height ceiling, well, especially in a new house, you probably got something wrong. I doubt the floor would be off on the top ceiling. It'd probably be more the floor in the basement would be off. But if you've got an older house and you've had concrete poured later on, it might not be perfect. You might need to measure different spots in the room to make sure the ceiling is going to be roughly the same, because if it's not, you may have to cut each panel at a different height. But mine was all the same, and I didn't cut it exactly the very height of the ceiling. I wanted a little bit of a gap just to make it easier when I rock these panels up, because I did get the ceiling painted. I didn't want to be scratching all that and have to touch it up. But anyway, made a jig. Once I did that, I brought them down to the basement. I decided to cut them all in the garage because unless you have a very large area, it just made sense to cut them in the garage. That got quite messy because you're cutting the foam backing as well, the timber. So cut them all up there, bring them down, and then that just makes it easier. Now, when it comes to actually mounting these on the wall, the website from AcuPanel, there's a few different ways. If you have a wall that's already drywalled like this, so say you're doing like a podcast room or a studio or something and you want to put them in a finished bedroom, you can go straight over drywall like this. They recommend using an adhesive. You can put it on the back, stick them straight on. That works pretty good. Obviously this area, I did not get drywalled at all because I didn't want to go the extra cost of drywalling it, and I always knew I was going to cover this with some type of paneling. So I just went with the standard stock framing. And then once that was done, I did add a few extra support horizontal pieces just so it wasn't a little bit loose in the middle, because these are quite long. If you didn't have any support in the middle, they would have been a little bit flimsy if, say, they got pushed or something like that. Now, if you are putting them on the framing, on the website, they recommend screwing. Definitely do not recommend going through the timber. go in the foam felt on the sides. It is a pretty rigid foam, so that would work pretty good as well. But I decided to go with a completely different route. Now, you might think I'm crazy, but I think it actually worked out pretty good. So over here, this is my storeroom over here to the right. I added a few more panels over here just to clean up this area, which is like my relaxing sort of lounge area. Added a few here to separate the storeroom to this. Now, these racks here are metal. Now, I was wondering how I was going to fix these to the metal. Ended up using magnets. So I just screwed some magnets from the back into the timber through the felt. You can see quite easily where the timber is because it's all stapled through the back, and that shows you where the timber is. So I grabbed some magnets. These magnets can do 150 pounds each. I added 4 of them. So I added one about here, and then down below as well. And then they just clip on like that. Now, once this worked out so good on this area, I then sort of turned my attention to this area and thought, well, why don't I just do magnets over here as well? And that's pretty much what I did. So you might be wondering how I managed to get the magnets onto the timber framing. I used some truss plates, which I used to build houses, secured those onto the framing. I've got plenty of shots to show you on this because this is actually all done. I thought it would have been cleaner to film this when it was done than sort of at the start where you couldn't have seen the finished result. But yeah, I got plenty of shots. So pretty much added those truss plates, which are metal, that would have made the wall allow the magnets to join onto it. Added 4 roughly in the right areas I needed. Once they were on, I put each panel up, and then I could just line up where the magnets needed to go. Now, I think some benefits of that are there's actually 2 large windows behind this area here. If I was to either screw them or glue them or so on, and I had an emergency or just something in the future where I needed to gain access to these windows, it would be probably a bit of a pain to do that. Now, what I can do here, I'm just going to attempt to just grab this one now. Might be a little bit hard because I can't quite get it. Actually, it might be easy if I grab this one. So I can just get my hand in here like this, pull it off, move it out of the way, and I have just completely taken that off like that. And you can see the truss plates there. I've just screwed them on, and then there's 2 more down the bottom. And then I just actually added some extra foam acoustic panels on the windows. 1, just to add some extra acoustic properties, and then 2, I didn't know if there was going to be any light bleed coming through these windows before I did these panels. So I actually used those to block out the light as well. But yeah, every single panel is on by magnets. I think that worked really good. I'm not sure if anyone has done that before. That's, I don't know, just a pretty good tip for anyone who is using these panels and might be putting on something like some metal framing, or even if your house is, the framing is made of metal, that's a different option you can go down. Instead of having to sort of convert it all to wood or add drywall over it, you can go with the metal option. But yeah, once I did that, I just went along. They do have, I would say, a tongue and a groove option. As you can see, this one over here has the overhang of the timber, and this one here has the overhang of the foam. So I started this way and worked my way along. So I had the first panel, which was this one over here. So it had the overhang, which went along there, and then it has the foam overhang there. And then the next panel will be this one, which has the overhang of the timber, which slots in there. And as you go along, you don't actually see where the joins are. It's all disguised and it looks absolutely perfect like that. And then this one over here actually goes all the way into the corner. I just added this other backdrop, which is on magnets as well. And as you can see, it goes all the way down. Just so I like to have a bit of my black panels on the left and the right, because if I'm filming this way, you do get a bit of bleed to the left and the right when I'm doing my panning shot. So that's why I do like to come out a little bit with my black backdrops. But anyway, I think that's it. Overall, I was really impressed with these panels. Now they are expensive. They're about $300 each for one panel. So that's this one, the $300 for one of them. Haven't seen too many people do such a large area like this. Like I think this was something like 10 grand's worth of acoustic panels. And then I do have I think it was 4 or 5 panels over there where the storeroom was. Quite expensive, but I really do think it does make a big difference. Like if I got this all drywalled, 1, I would have had to pay for the expense of that. 2, I would have had to thought of something to do with this area to make it nice to film. Like right now, you're probably used to seeing I've got this filming spot normally is what I've had in the old place in California, although the backdrop was just black. Then I normally had the black backdrop as well when I go from my building to my cinematic shots. To do that in California, because I was limited in space, I used to just run a sheet all the way along this garage shelving, clip it on, and that's how I got away with doing this, and then also going with the black backdrop. But now I've got this one here, I've got my solid black backdrop, and now I also have this nice light oak one where if I'm doing a desk review or a chair review or something, I can just get some different options where I can film this way, which is nice, and then I can film this way. And this time I actually decided to put this garage shelving, all of it is on wheels now, so I can completely slide these out like so, come straight out. So if I want this this dark oak backdrop completely free with none of the shelving, I can just slide it out of the way. I can even move the shelving over to this other side if needed. But overall, I was impressed with these panels. A few things just about them. When they did arrive in shipping, it was a bit of a mess. I reached out to them. It's kind of like they were thrown in the delivery truck. Obviously 30 panels is going to be a bit of a mission to ship. I reached out to them because they were half on a pallet. Some of the boxes looked damaged. I actually only had one out of all of these. I had one of them that was damaged, and it was right at the very top corner. So when I did trim these down, I managed to chop that off, so that worked out fine. But I reached out to them. I said, hey, look, I'm doing this video for my viewers. What happens if something goes wrong? They said, look, if you do get any of these panels that are damaged, email them straight away, get photos, and they will replace them for you as well, which is, I think is pretty good, which I think they should do anyway. Even when the delivery guy dropped them off, he said they had 5 days from them if they have any damages through them. So I had 5 days to even contact them. But overall, I didn't really need to contact them. I think there was one little mark somewhere on one of these, but it was so small and minute, I personally didn't worry. You're not going to see them on film, so I wasn't really going to hassle them to send out another panel. So I think that's pretty much it. I do want to thank Aku Woodpanel for supporting this area. I think it did come out really good. I think it's going to look good once I actually start getting some builds, some reviews going. And then don't forget that 25% discount code as well if you are interested in picking these up. They got plenty of colors. I obviously wanted to go with the dark contrasting on the back. Then I wanted to go with a lighter option on this wall as well. Now these walls are long. This is 30 feet this way. This is 30 feet this way. So you probably wouldn't need to go that many. And then they also come in the a bit over 9 feet size, and then also the 7 if you have sort of smaller height ceilings as well. But I think that's pretty much it. Just want to thank you guys for watching, and do let me know if you want me to do a full basement tour. I do have a full-blown workshop which is behind the oak panel here. It's quite large. I got all my tools, all my machinery. Then I've got like my editing stuff here behind me, my editing PCs. I've got the storeroom as well, which I have a heap of gear. And then I've got like the lounge set up in there. And I've also got a sick little test bench over here. We've got like a manifold where I can put like a bunch of in and outs for testing hardware. I've got all the smart lighting. Then I also have like a full server rack. I wouldn't say full, it's only about a 6 RU, but a full server rack with all my networking gear, because I did get all of the networking ports put in around the bottom. I got fiber installed for my main PC that goes back to the rack cabinet. Plenty of networking, plenty of power. Let me know if you want me to do a full rundown. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.